Welcome to Engineering Value from Your PI System, brought to you by GTSGroup and Dimension Software. My name is John Messenger. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at GTSGroup. I'll be your host for today, and I'm really excited to spend the next 2 hours with you to learn how to engineer value from your PI system by leveraging the advanced technologies developed by our technology partners, Dimension Software and PimSoft. Our speakers today come from a variety of industries, including power generation, alumina refining, iron ore mining, and steel pellet production. Each will share the story of their business journey in engineering greater value from their PI systems, using the advanced technologies from Dimension Software and PimSoft. Before we begin, today's webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be made available soon afterwards. Our agenda for today's webinar will be as follows. Our first speaker is Mark Faith, who is the Manager, Operations and Diagnostics Centre and Technology at AGL. Mark will then be followed by Patrice Taylor, who is a Solutions Analyst at Queensland Alumina Limited. We will then hear from Sophie Morissette and Emily Hebbert of AccelorMittal. Our final speaker will be Karl Rickards, who is a Performance Analytics Specialist at Stanwell Corporation. At the end of each presentation, there will be a short time available for questions to the speakers, except for Sophie and Emily, as their presentation is a pre-recorded video. There will also be a discussion panel in the last part of the webinar, and you'll have the opportunity to submit questions for the panel as well. At the top of your Teams webinar screen, you will see a Q&A button. Please use this to submit your questions at any time, either for the current presentation or for the discussion panel. At GTSGroup, we connect people and information. We're not only Australasia's largest specialist team in real-time data management and solutions, but also the largest team of OSIsoft accredited PI system specialists in the Australasia region. Dimension Software helps organisations leverage their PI system investment through industry-leading solutions Alarm Sentinel and Asset Intellect. Today we'll learn how Asset Intellect has been implemented at AGL, QAL and Stanwell to leverage their PI systems and deliver real business value to those organisations. So without any further ado, I'll now turn the time over to Mark Faith from AGL, who will share their journey using Asset Intellect. Thank you, Mark.
Welcome, my name's Mark Faith. Today, what I want to do is take you through our journey of how we're using Asset Intellect within AGL. So, first of all, I'm hoping that I can move the slide. So I'll move the slide now to slide 10. Okay, so name's Mark Faith, fitter and turner by trade, then spent a few years in condition monitoring, 31 years experienced in the electrical generation. It's all I've really done is electrical generation. Somehow I managed to look after the ecosystem, which also includes the OSI Pi in our data system. We also now look after drones and robotics and the operational diagnostic centre, but our main goal is being able to provide the data that is useful for the people on site. Next slide. Thank you. So, introduction to AGL. We've got over 184 year history from lighting the first gas lamp in 1841 in the streets of Sydney. We now generate over 11,000 megawatts of electricity, approximately 20% of the total Australian eastern seaboard requirement. We have things from our traditional thermal gas, brown coal, which, as you've seen, we're shutting down very shortly. Natural gas storage, as well as our renewables from hydro, wind, solar, battery, and obviously there's emerging technologies as well. Next slide, please. So our issue is with all this and all our systems is where all this data resides. How do we bring all this data together? And it's a problem we've had for many years. So in the past, we've had problems with dashboards and people producing dashboards in Excel, and they do Power BI or they use another program. All our reporting systems are all different. We have a document library. People put things in SharePoint, Teams in local drives or the cloud. So where do I go to get all this information? And from day to day, week to week, I'm going to 10 different places. So next part is, how do we find something that's ease of navigation? It's multi-program integration, so I can bring different systems together. It's web-based, so I don't have to install anything on the computer. We can also use mobility. We can look at version control. And as an added bonus, can I bring in alarm and events into a system as well? So that being the case, our logical choice is when we were searching and searching and searching, we came across Asset Intellect. So how do we bring this all together? Logical choice was Asset Intellect. Next slide, please. Okay. The one thing we really sold us with Asset Intellect to start with was the hierarchy down the left-hand side. Yeah, some people say, oh, it's old school, it's not web, but hey, it works and it's very easy to navigate compared to your SharePoints and Teams. Try to find something in Teams, good luck. One of my pet hates. It allows us to bring all this data in together. Next slide, please. So that's our landing page. And then from the top of the hierarchy, we can build things in different ways. We can have a logical hierarchy that people can drill down even on our sites. But then our team in Melbourne and our corporate offices and our COO can just go into the top level, which is the asset overviews, and get all the information he or she needs to bring a logical understanding of what's happening on site. So with this page, we're bringing data in through a system called RT Duet, and it's actually pulling data in from an SQL database, and that's showing our D rates, which are currently on site. If we go to the next slide, we can have an overview of our, this is a Pi Vision screen, an overview of our renewable assets. So nice and quick and easy. I don't have to go into Pi Vision and find a version that is correct. I can actually go in and say, hey, this is the trusted version. And in the top right-hand corner, you can see it's just in dark blue. We do have a version. So we can understand what version we're on, and we know it's a qualified version. So next slide, please. The other thing we can do is, as we drill down further in and we make it useful for the people on site, we can actually replicate. And what we've done here is, here's the Pi Vision screen again, and we've replicated the HDMI screens. So for us, our maintenance personnel and even our engineers, before going up on site, and especially our hydro sites, which could be 20 minutes and up to, in some cases, 2 hours away from the depot, they can actually view what's happening through the HDMI screen, where before they had to go to site to actually see what was going on. So now we've actually been able to reproduce that in the HMI screens. Thank you. This has happened just recently, and this next screen, it's various sources of data being able to present on one page. And I must say, the team at Dimension have done a great job at being able to mix these together, and it's a matter of making sure we have the right information on the page. So we're using this for our control center for our dispatch center for the renewable site. At the top is a Pi Vision screen. That data is coming from Pi. And same with the top right, that's coming from Pi as well. That's giving us our reference data. That's coming actually from external, from AMO, and we're bringing that in through an IoT hub. But the graph, or the data at the bottom, is actually coming from a SQL database. And this gives them their trading information. And it allows us to print Pi Vision pages and a SQL underneath, and then be able to color code respectively on that as well. So it's a great versatile way of presenting data that normal Pi system cannot do. Next. Taking that a step further, we had a challenge with our environmental group. And this group, they had built spreadsheets for years and years and years. It evolved into the point where it actually took them a couple of days to produce a 3-monthly report to probably over a week to produce an annual report. We sat down and we looked at the workflow and we looked at how it all brought together. And one of our challenges was they had to edit data. So when it came back, or they had data come in from a lab or from the instruments, in some cases they had to edit it. So what we've been able to do is use the SQL editor to give them a window to edit that data. And from that, being able to produce the reports at the end of the 3 months or at the end of the year or half yearly automatically. So with that, in the top left-hand corner, the team can do it themselves. We've given them access. They can select the period. They can select the monitoring point. Then they select the analyte, which in this case is volume. And then they can go through and they can delete or they can edit and this data, which is then written back into Pi or the SQL automatically with no real issues. It's just a native function of the system. They can go in at any time and do that for us. Next slide, please. The other added benefit that we've really found, again, we're going back to interactive displays for the trading people and dispatch, is the ability to have those systems update and the graphs update on an as-needs basis. So this can be up on the wall. They can have their mouse. They can select the dispatch pricing region. So for this case, we've selected in blue the New South Wales one. We can select Eildon, and on the right-hand side, the graph will come up looking into the future for the recommended retail price of what's that's going to be, and then under that, what the site, being Eildon, is going to be, dispatched at. And they can click through those, and that graph on the right-hand side will update. And that's a mixture again of an SQL data, so not just the Pi data. Here we've taken another step, which is looking at we're looking at our FCAS, and we'll talk. It's just going to have a few slides actually. So with our system, we can see that we might be off target. So the alarm will raise in the control room, but they might know why they're off target. So they can quickly come into here, select the date, select the dispatch. Obviously, we can go back in time as well from the two left-hand side. In number 3, dispatch interval details, we pick up Dartmouth and we can actually see that it was off target. Gives us a bit of information, but then what we can do is the dewar details in 4, we can actually see what the trend was happening for them right there and then. Now they can export that, they can dive into why they are off target or why they were off target. So as a history. This is something that previously was very difficult for us to do, especially in just straight Pi vision. We couldn't do that. This is has been built totally in Asset Intellect. Next screen, please. Then this is the FCAS, the Frequency Control Auxiliary Service. So when there's a frequency disturbance, we have to respond. As a generator, that generator has to respond within reason and within certain parameters. It's always good to keep an eye on how these go and how it's going, because if you don't respond, you can actually end up with quite a large fine from AMO, the governing body. So what we do is we have our data coming in from site, which is normally 1 second data. But then what we've been able to do is pull in our high frequency data from our protection relays. And that gets pulled in every couple of hours. and then we run a Python script over it, and we also use Py to help create an event frame. Then we use the event viewer to be able to display that, actually have a look at the data. So with that, you can see here I've highlighted that AGL Loy Yang A1 generator, we had an event. Now on the left-hand side, you can see an arrow, and you can see a page and also a little trend. So from that, we can click on those and we can get more information. So we can see if we go to the next slide. Thank you. We can have a look at what actually happened within that system. So the purple is the high frequency data. So you can see where it deviated and how it responded to the low frequency data, which is in the green. If we go to the next slide, what happens, we also run the a Python script over it. And that Python script then creates 3 reports. So we have an FGAS PDF, we have a high speed for AMO, and we have a low speed for AMO. So they're reports that we are already set and we can set to AMO. But from that, in the attachment, we don't have to go looking for them. They're here saved underneath that event. And all you got to do is click on it and bring it up, and you've got all that data in that one place now. So next screen. What we've also done is able to edit that event. So if someone's reviewed it, and they can put their name as a reviewer, and they can edit the details within the event. So this allows us to do, in certain cases, in certain events, be able to record things against it and put some information here for the next person coming in. Next slide. Excuse me. Another part of Asset Intellect, what Asset Intellect has allowed us to do, is start making what we call Athena asset health dashboards. In the past, engineers are trying to look after their plant. This plant, they're getting data from laboratories, they're getting real-time data, and they can't look, or they're not looking at, or they can get distracted from an outage or something like that. So they might miss a small trend. And in some case, we've had failures that have taken, when we look back, have taken 3 to 4 years to generate. The problem is we've normalized it because it's just been a very slow trend over 4 years. So one of the problems we had was data requires interpretation. We miss trends, right? An operator or an engineer cannot sit at his computer or her computer 8 hours a day looking at the trends. We also have various site expertise. Some people are very good, some people are very young. So we came up with a dashboard which, using AF, allows us to standardize those calculations and have this in an area in the Asset Intellect that anybody can go to and view, and they can have it up on their walls and they can quickly change. So if we go to the next slide. Once we find the problem, we looked at Unit 3, and actually Unit 3 had 2 alarms on it. What we've been able to do is, this is the detailed view. And what this view does, it allows us to bring all that data together, which can be the lab results, doing calculation in AF, if you've used manual logger or you've used data coming in from a manual system. We can bring that in and we pull it all in and we put alarms and alerts around it. So what we've looked at here is the red on the highest stator temp. We can see that the generator temp, rotor bar 74, is higher than normal. So what we're trying to do here is just show that, hey, we haven't diagnosed what the problem is, but we're alerting the engineer that this is different and it's higher than where you normally would like it, and it should be. We're not at failure yet, but it gives him or her time to react into an action and do maintenance on these systems before it actually fails. And a generator can cost $30 million to rewind, not something, and plus loss of generation, not something you really want to experience. Next slide, please. Okay. One of our big bugbears was reporting. And where do I go to get a report? It's in SharePoint or it's in Teams. Which team is it? And if anyone's like me, they've got a list as long as your arm in Teams, and it takes ages to find anything. So what we did is we set up an area in our Asset Intellect. You can see here it's business reporting. We have availability, capital projects, compliance, health and safety. And here we are in performance. So we produce a performance report every month. This is a platform where people know they can just go to get the relevant reports. Within that, the reports are PDF'd. So this will go all the way, in some cases, to the board. And they have access to Asset Intellect. They've asked us for access, which everyone has got. We've opened it up to everybody. And they can go back in time and have a look at those reports. They can download them, but they know where to get them from. So making sure that data is available when they need it. Next slide, please. The other part of that is once you've read the report, within that area, we've also hosted the Power BI report so that you can click on any of those sites, which could be Loy Yang A, and then drill down through the Power BI reports to actually go further down in the data. So we have both sets of information side by side. So if we go one more, we're now using Power BI within Asset Intellect. We haven't had to go think about, hey, where is Power BI? Where's that report? We just have to know we have to go here. We can find the PDF, and the next tab across on the right will be the further data. Also, in this case, we're producing reports using a Python script again on PyData, and we're producing heat maps. Very difficult to do in our regular PyVision or things like this. We just produce them in PDF, but we find that this is where people are asking for these type of things to go so they can find them. Next one, this is our journey, alarm and events. One of our problems is in the past, if there's something's been wrong on site, we've had to ring site and ask them, hey, can you download the alarm and events from the control system? Using the alarm and events integrator, we've been able to pull this data into OSI Pi. Then with the help of Dimension software, we've pulled that string apart and got our alarm and events into the system. That means even sitting here at home today, I can use Asset Intellect using Alarm Sentinel and pull in those alarms. What we're finding is even the techs on site who have access to the DCS are using this system now because they're finding it easier to use than the control system to go through the alarm and events to filter. But it allows us great flexibility now and access to that data that we never had before. And if we go to the next slide, we're just probably 75% of the way through configuring our first KPIs. In the past, we download this data into a database, and then we create a Power BI report over the top of that. Very manual orientated. This will do this automatically for us. So once we do this, we can start managing our alarms. That's a bit of our journey. So next slide. That's our journey. We're still developing. We're still learning how to use Asset Intellect and how we get the most out of it. It does take time, and you do need that governance model over the top of it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark. We haven't received any questions from the audience. One question I would like to ask is just with the alarm data that you're seeing there in Asset Intellect, that's coming through from Alarm Sentinel, is that right?
Yes, correct.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And obviously you've got a fair bit more that you want to do with that alarm data.
Oh, look, it's even going to get more and more as we push And as we close down our coal-fired power stations and we start bringing in batteries and all these remote assets, it's going to become more vital that we pull those alarm data in, especially wind farms. Wind farms are constantly pushing alarms in, and we're still embarking in trying to get that data out of the wind farm. So it's a challenge. We're not 100% there. I would say in the case with our data, we're probably 60 to 70% of the data we want in the system that we can use for alarm and events. But we'll keep chipping away.
Okay, thank you. We have received one question from one of our audience. How do you connect the HMI into Asset Intellect?
So it's not actually, it's a funny one. It's not actually connected. What we did is I went around and took a picture of all the HMI screens. And then we actually replicate it. So we actually sit down with the DCS engineer, and we first of all we drew them, and then we made sure all the points were the same. So it's not actually connected. We're just bringing the data in, but we make it look the same. That's the beauty of it. The operator on site is used to that grey screen, so he or she, it's no different for them. There's nothing worse when you're getting it different to what's on site. So we just exactly copied what we had. In some cases, you can copy the graphics. In some cases, you can't.
Excellent. And those mimics that you've created are all done in PyVision. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah. We still have some legacy of process books, but most of the stuff we do now is in PyVision, and that is a PyVision screen. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate your sharing that journey with us.
Easy done. Thank you.
Well, thank you. We'll now be pleased to hear from Patrice Taylor at QAL, and we'll have the opportunity to speak to her afterwards.
Good morning. My name's Patrice Taylor and I work at Queensland Alumina Limited. I've been employed at Queensland Alumina Limited since 2000, where I started as a database developer and consultant. In 2006, I moved across to the dark side of process information as a PyAce developer, and I've basically been there ever since. I'm currently have the title of Solutions Analyst, and since 2006, I've worked mainly on OSI Pi products, and I continue to work with those to current times. Queensland Alumina was developed and commenced production in March 1967. We produce some 3.8 million tonnes of the world's best smelter grade alumina per year. It's used locally and shipped all around the globe. We're located in Gladstone, which is the centre of Queensland on the coast, and we make use of our deep water port and our rail links to the mines. We produce alumina on behalf of two companies, Rio Tinto and Rusal, and the software Pi software we use on site includes the Archive, PyAF, PyVision, PyOPC, PyDataLink, and PyAce. PyProcessBook and ACE were reaching end of life, and so we had to look around for something that was going to replace these products. We had invested a lot of development time in both of these products since ProcessBook in particular since the late 80s, and we needed to find a system that would present the information at all levels of the organisation in a simple and timely manner. We'd already begun work on AF and Vision, but we're looking for a way to present the information to users in a logical manner. Over the past year, we've continued to develop our site hierarchy using PyVision displays, Power BI reports, attribute editors, and event frames. As users became aware of the capabilities of Asset Intellect, more requests for enhancements were being received all the time. We've now migrated over 6,700 ProcessBook displays for presentation in the hierarchy, although not all of them are currently included. We've also developed a shift reporting system using event frames. which enables users to enter data about what's happened during their shift for different events, and they have the ability then to go back and search for a particular thing. It contains a wiki, so they can put in documents, photos, any type of record that they like. The beauty of it is that if a log event stays open until it's closed by the user, which means that an event can take place for any length of time rather than just the 12 hours of the shift. We've also developed a road closure system on site, which graphically portrays any road closures so that anyone moving around the plant can easily determine which is the best route for them to take. And this is particularly useful for people driving cranes, emergency vehicles, that sort of thing. We've contracted Dimension Software to create a condition monitoring system for site. This is now nearing completion. It was developed using their SQL editor and provides technicians an interface for all monitored equipment and reports their results using both dashboards and ad hoc reports. We've migrated all the historical data across for the monitored equipment, so the data is fully historical as well. We're now embarking on a project to gather and report equipment being monitored by our non-destructive team. This is using the SQL editor again and will allow us to future-proof data gathering over years of operation of the existing system. We are also progressing our downtime monitoring in our raw materials area in particular. This will allow the controllers of the systems to enter and view data on the current unload or load events happening during these operations from the same screen. Selecting a historical event will also display all the downtime events for that load or unload event. We can also classify and report on all downtime events using BI, Power BI. Using the SQL editor, we've also been able to provide read-only access to users for systems such as the electrical and instrumentation and asbestos registers. We're looking to present a range of current SQL databases using this method. Here you see their road closure system. So this is basically our plant, and the road closures are signified using a pin. This is the condition monitoring system. This is one of the dashboards. This is at the highest level, and it actually classifies, presents a number of different pieces of information. So this is star rating, which is a rating of 1 to 3, and it's moved against our ABC rating, which is a rating of importance in the plant, and produces this lovely heat map. We can also see what surveyed versus missed equipment, if there's any reason given for the missed equipment, and also any high risk notifications created are actually listed here. Just on the basic process book displays, what we've done is we've replaced quite a few of them with vision displays, and they present much better in the hierarchy than the process book displays, although we still do use some of those. So this is a basic downtime system. This is on our spent liquor. We've found a way to list all vision tools that we used, quite a few Excel spreadsheets, etc. So we now have a listing of those. That's by using an attribute editor. So the challenges that we faced included a radical departure from the process book technology, and people in the plant were very happy, very comfortable with that. So in order to get them on board, we needed to do some presentations. We ran training courses from everyone from management down to overcome this. And now the users are all very happy with the system. They see that it adds a lot of benefits for them. They can do things like ad hoc trending, which is something that they'd never been able to do before in process book. In some cases, it's been required to change the thinking or processes to gain the best advantage of the new technology. Benefits include that we could keep a very valuable asset, our historical and current data, alive and improve our ability to maintain the systems and data. So because we're presenting it all in one system, maintenance is at a minimum. Because their systems are designed to enhance the OSI products, we've been able to see that a seamless transition from Process Book and ACE is both possible and presents the ability to add further enhancements in how we present this information to users. So looking ahead, we have future projects, including further development in the downtime system across the plant, further reporting systems such as site tagging systems. We're also looking in the future to integrate SAP information directly into the plant hierarchy that will allow us to report on any work orders for that particular piece of equipment. With the introduction of the SQL editor, we've identified a number of systems that currently presented as standalone database systems into the process information portal system. We intend to further incorporate Power BI reporting, and we see that there's quite a few years of work ahead of us to improve and present this information. We've had overwhelming support from management, and they really appreciate the work that we've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrice. We have a couple of questions that have come in, and so we'll start with the first one from John. He asks, are you bringing in manual collected data from the field from mobile devices or from other data sources like spreadsheets? If so, what system are you using to capture that data?
Yes, we are bringing in manual data, and we use a number of different methodologies. We use OSI's universal file loader to bring in spreadsheet type information from things like environmental monitoring stations and loggers. We actually employ ACE to interpret the files and place the data into Pi. We have manual data entry systems as well. So yeah, we have a lot of different methodologies of getting information in.
Thank you, Patrice. I have another question from Daniel. He asks, what's the mechanism behind downtime? Are you using event frames in the asset framework?
Yes, we are using event frames. What we found is we have two ways that we can actually cause an event frame or generate an event frame. In the case of our ship loading and train unloading, that sort of thing, it's generally a manual process from the control room, but we also have automatically generated event frames on monitored equipment in the plant.
Wonderful. Thank you, Patrice. Appreciate that presentation. We'll now watch the presentation from Sophie Morissette and Emily Herbert from about ArcelorMittal's digital transformation using PimSoft's Sigmafine.
Our presentation is digital transformation of Excel spreadsheet to the #1 KPI on our pellet plant using Sigmafine. I will present with Emily on ArcelorMittal. Agenda. Oh, our agenda. We will talk first about us, ArcelorMittal Mining Canada, our data infrastructure. After that, we will talk about our initial situation before this project, the mandate and the objective. And after that, we will see the digital transformation. We will see a lot of things that Andrew talked about and Bernard talked about. And after that, the result and the next steps.
So, about us. ArcelorMittal, AM, and AMIC, it's two complementary companies operating on the North Shore, like Bernard said. We are producing concentrate and iron oxide pellets for the steel industry. And we have a rail and a port infrastructure to transport and ship its product to 4 continents in the world. Both are part of the ArcelorMittal mining segment, the world's largest steel producer and among the 5 largest iron ore producers worldwide. So now it was what I was saying before. Like I said, 26 million tons of concentrate. The concentrate is produced and transported by train. 270 miles to Port-Cartier, where part of the production is transformed at IM pellet plants. Its annual production capacity is 10 million tons per year. The plant produces different pellet types to satisfy customers' requirements. And we ship those pellets around the world, and we have stockpile Now our chain value. So this is the whole process. Like I said, just to have some image to put you in context. We have the mine. It's very, very, very large site. We are mining a lot of concentrate there. After that, we did the extraction of the concentrate. We have a lot of equipment like shovel loaders and a lot of other equipment.
It's ore material. It's not concentrate, it's ore material.
Yes, it's ore material. And after crushing, milling, concentration, we have concentrate. You see every equipment. After that, we transport that concentrate to Port-Cartier. And our facility pelletizing, we have grinding line and duration furnace to do the pellet. It's that section of the chain value that we are reconciled with Sigmafine. It's only this side, this part of the chain. And after that, we are shipping the material all over the world. So now it's Sophie turns our data infrastructure.
Okay. Our company use 3 Pi servers, different, one at the concentrator and other one to the pellet plant. And we have another Pi server for Sigmafine. All these Pi servers are connected to the pump, the motor, and all the equipment with the PLC, you know that. And we are able to archive all this data. On that, we have 2 Pi AF server, one for Sigmafine and another one to build a model, an asset-based model, like Andrew said. We work a lot with that. It's very, very good. We will see it later. We don't use Pi Analytic. We use a lot Pi Event Frame. It's like the case in Sigmafine. It's the same principle. And after that, we use Pi notification to be advised for some special event. And we have a lot of this data will be in SQL, will be pushed, and we have a lot of other information in SQL Server and in SAP. Our company are principal based on Microsoft technology and tools, and also on OSI technology. And we use also a lot of Microsoft Office suite. Before we have 5 tools like Excel, Outlook, and now we have 30 tools. It's really, really powerful to use. And we also use a lot of the OSI tools like PiVision. We use a little bit process book, but the most of the people use PiVision. It's really, really useful for us. Process book just a little bit. We really encourage everybody to use PiVision instead of process book, and PiLink is really used also.
I will talk about the initial situation. So, just to put you in context, The report production was calculated by Excel files since 1999, so it's been a while. It was so much technical problem with Excel macros. Just to put you in context, it was like 12 or 13 or maybe more, 15 spreadsheet in Excel, all related with macros. Everything was really not working well. And we had many adjustment factors in the calculation spreadsheet that the first person put it in the files. And when you are new and you begin to start working with those files, you don't know why this adjustments are there. So it was really not useful. In addition of that, reconciled data was available only once a week. So during all the week, we didn't know how much we produce pellet, and nobody was informed of the situation. So it was not really a good situation for the enterprise. Just to put you in context, those are the different steps. In fact, I was in that position. I was doing all that painful things. So we were detecting errors in input data, collecting the data just for one day, build a daily report, after that aggregate data in a weekly report, and after that build a monthly report like with, I said, the 15 files were not working really well, sorry. So to fix the situation, we had a project mandate. Like I said, it was really complex to load the Excel file. So after staff losses and turnover, only one resource was qualified to calculate it. It was me. So, which put us at risk. So the latest internal audit raised this risk. So to correct the situation, we wanted to calculate it with a support commercial platform, Sigmafine. And the mass balance was modeled on Sigmafine. In order to achieve the required level of accuracy, we wanted to add the laboratory result of our pellet. So we had to do something about that to regularize the situation quickly. So the challenge, just to explain a bit why it's so complex for us to reconcile all the data, it's we just know how much concentrate is going in our process. We don't have a balance at the end. So, and the material, it's like you see there. I'm sorry for here. It's like stockpile. So it's really huge material. So we can count it, and we have only 2 surveys by year. So we don't know exactly how much we produce the pellet. So that digital transformation, our data engineer will present that part.
We will see the solution overview. You will see it's really the digital transformation we talk all the day. We will take from our data source. We have SQL Server, PyData Archive, and this case, in our case, lab result is really important and is in an SQL server. And we will take this data, we will model it with PyAF and with Sigmafine. And after that, we will be able to reconcile, file the imbalance, and find the minimal adjustment to resolve that. And after that, we will visualize the model and the result. We will see, we have used Power BI and PyVision to visualize it. On the road to the success, we start in 2006 in a user conference of OSI. We discover Sigmafine. At this point, Sigmafine is belongs OSI Soft. We did a benchmark to choose the reconciliation tool in collaboration with Morite, the concentrator. And Sigmafine is recommended for the pellet plant. We buy a server and we have a training with Laurent Garrigue, who knows it from OSI. And we work on PyAF1 at this date. In 2012, another group works with Sigmafine, and we have another formation with Ernie, thanks to Ernie, if you know it, from PIMSOF. He came in Canada to train 12 people. After that, we upgrade our server to PyAF2 with the help of PIMSOF also. And we increase the result. And the last part, we make another team. The team is really, really important if you want to make reconciliation. In this team, we have IT analyst, statistic analyst, metallurgical engineer or process engineer. It's really, really important in your team if you want to understand how the process works. And in this time, we take an application management service contract with PIMSOF to help us to configure the component balance with the help of Carlos. It's really important also because we have a lot of HR turnover, and if we lose one of the member of the team, PIMSOF is there to help us to continue and be able to run or to modify the model. It's really, really a good solution. Okay, the first part, you have to, we build a component balance model. It's a mass balance, as you done, everybody, but you had the component. We see it, it's the same thing there. You have a part of MgO, CaO, and we have to balance not just in mass, but we have to balance on all this component. And some component give us the measurement because we don't have always a weight scales for all the material input, the pellet plant. It's Sigmafine. We have, in this model, we have 140 analyzer, a lot of flows, volumeter is principal, it's mass volumeter, 12 tank, and 17 nodes. With this model, we don't use process book to reconcile. We just use only PyAF in PySystem Explorer, and we use a scheduler to start the reconciliation every day automatically. Every day, 1 minute after the end of the day, the reconcile mass are available. It's really. It's worked very well. Each day, the reconciled mass are there. To visualize the model, simply, we take a process flow sheet and we configure it in the model. In PySystem Explorer, you're able to visualize the model, but it's only for a single node and the input and the output. We take PyVision to make a visualization better. It's more easy to understand. We only take an AutoCAD draw, and after that you paint on that to see if equipment is running or not. understand the flow, where the materials begin just there. We have the weight scale at the entrance, and you put it in the silo, and after you pass from the miles, and after that we mix it, and after we have the pelletizing disc to after the furnace, the two furnace at the end. It's really, really simple to understand what is our model and the process. And within this display, just below, you will see the reconciled mass calculated for the latest day. It's really, really simple, and everybody understands that, and the reconciled mass is accessible for anybody. And if you want to have more detail, you have a link, and you will connect to the Power BI and the complete report. We will see it later. After that, it's the PyVision part. We use a lot PyAF. In the PyAF, we have two PyAF. One is only for Sigmafine, and the other one is the complete asset model. We use it to an asset-centric model. We build a unique base template for all equipment and plant. We build it with Osvaldo Bascure from OSI. He give us some cue, and we build it like for each equipment. We have the most important KPI for each equipment, like his production, the operating hour, the performance, and all the KPI you want to have on any equipment or plant. And after that, we use PyEventFrame to collect, consolidate, organize, and contextualize data. We regroup all the information, the reconciled mass, the operating time, the product, availability, energy. We collect all information, temperature, and we structure the information to be able to analyze it and find more interesting information. We use also a lot PyNotification to detect event and send out a notification in the Sigmafine reconciliation. If we are able with the PyNotification to control the limit for input lab result. If the humidity is too high, we notify
the right person.
Directly the right person when the lab result is available. If it's too high or too low, we notify them directly. And we also react rapidly if imbalance or correction is high in the reconciliation. After that, we use Power BI. Power BI, it's a powerful tool to reporting KPI. We are able to see the production, operating time, the performance, consumption of raw material, and energy. And we present it like a value tree driver. And the first number at the top, it's the reconciled mass from Sigmafine. It's our production for the latest day. And you see rapidly if you are higher or lower than the objective. In this case, we are 5% below the objective. It's red. And you are able to follow where is the problem. And in this kind, it's split on furnace 1 and furnace 2. And we see the two furnaces are below the objective of production. And if we follow the value tree, we will see it's the performance that is incorrect on both lines. It's very, very powerful, and we have a lot of pages to verify or display all this information. All graphs are interactive. If you click on one equipment or one number one day, all the other graphs will interact. and you are able also to extract all the data in those graphs. You are able to share just an hyperlink for share the report. It's really, really easy. And we have one page on the reconciliation. We are able to, we list all the node in our model, and we list it in imbalance the order. The first one is the node with the major imbalance, and we are able to see the imbalance not just for one case. We can do it for one case, but we are also able to see the imbalance for multiple cases in the same page. And just after, we do the same thing to show where is the major correction, the mass correction, and also the mass test one in the latest graph. And this page is really, really useful and used every day to verify where is the imbalance and the adjustment we have to do. Oh, and a response for Carlos. All that is possible if you use PySQL commander to extract the event frame data, and the PyOLEDB to extract also the PyData archive.
So now the results. It's soon finished. I know we are a bit in balance in the time, so. So the result of all that, we see, you saw everything we done with Sigmafine and all the PIMSoft tools. So I just want to put emphasis in the fact that our situation, it was really painful before, and now it's like another life for us. I don't have to do anything about that. Every day the reconciliation is done. I just have to make some verification, but it's really easier for us. And now we are a team, so everybody is able to do the work. It's not all on my shoulders, so it's really less risky for the company also. And with the service agreement with Sigmafine, it's really with PIMSoft, it's really helpful. So it was the advantage. The digital transformation, like a resume, the challenge was with the Excel file and the way we can't really count our production. With a component balance using PyData for feeding Sigmafine, it was the solution. And we add a copy production report with Power BI, so the result is really interesting. And our next step, because we want to improve our model, it's not finished for us. We want to, before I can explain you why we put that picture, it's because we have a surveyor. They went at our plant to do 2 times a year by year a survey. But we have a drone, and me and Sophie and other people are doing we try to do 2 flights by month, and we can use that data to reconcile our real production with Sigmafine. So it's great to make adjustment with that new equipment. So we want to use that more and more to be more accurate. And also the next step, we want to implement a laser at the end of the pellet plant. So we will have a measure at entrance and one at the output. So we want to add it in the model too to be more precise. And we will maybe do an energy balance soon, because our oil park will soon be we will have instrumentation there, so we will try to do a model with that. and now we will understand everything you said today about oil and gas. And our reconciliation raw material, it's not always on the target, so we want to improve that with more measurement in the pellet plant, and it's that.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We have no questions with regards to that presentation. We can talk a little bit more about Sigmafine if needed in the questions and answer panel at the end of the seminar. We'll now be pleased to hear from our final speaker, Karl Rickards, performance analyst at Stanwell, who will share with us their journey. Thank you, Karl.
Thanks very much, John. Pleasure to be here. So, yeah, today I'll be sharing about our journey with Dimension Software's Asset Intellect. So just quickly, who is Stanwell? So Stanwell Corporation, so we're a major provider of electricity and energy solutions to Queensland, the national electricity market and large energy users throughout Australia. We're creating a new lower carbon generation portfolio that's complemented by energy storage. We're driving the development of a renewable hydrogen export industry in central Queensland, and we're keeping the lights on as the state's energy industry transforms. As this energy transition takes place, we are ensuring our current generating assets remain safe, reliable, flexible, and as efficient as possible. A continual search for and adoption of value-adding technologies is recognised as a supporting enabler for our values, which is we care, we adapt, and we deliver. So real-time data, as we're talking a lot about here, it's a key enabler for safe, efficient, and reliable operation. No doubt something that everyone in industrial process is fully accustomed to. Stanwell has been a significant user of the PI system for over a decade. I think it was around 2009 that the PI system first came into the organisation. We use it in three main ways here. We have advanced calculations to identify and alert performance degradation. These were developed by a lot of some of our key users within the business. Process safety compliance KPIs, which we monitor closely. And we also use the PI system for environmental monitoring and compliance. So at the beginning of 2020, we embarked on a project to replace an aging shift log system at one of our sites and also provide a significant uplift for a similar system at another site. Stanwell needed a technology that could deliver our regulatory obligations, that integrated with our core business systems, and most importantly, ease of use for our people. There are numerous market offerings in this space, all with class-leading capabilities. So why did we choose Asset Intellect? We had previously looked at Asset Intellect as a capability to integrate and centralise our disparate data systems into a common platform, something that's been talked about a lot here today, actually. Upon reviewing offerings for our new digital shift log, this was advertised as a capability of Asset Intellect, something that I wasn't aware of in the past. Asset Intellect seamlessly integrates with PI, which is considered one of Stanwell's core business systems. So GTSGroup is a real-time technology partner of Stanwell. Having local capability with the chosen technology was very important, as the digital shift log requires a high degree of uptime for our operational sites. GTSGroup provided resourcing alongside Dimension Software to implement the project on time and within budget. Adding Asset Intellect to our current 24/7 GTS support agreement was straightforward, maintaining a simplified and common support framework. So this is a bit of a screenshot of what our shift log looks like. So for those of you who are users of common shift logs such as J5, you'll notice probably some similarities there. We can see things, a typical grid view where we have columns that are split out by units and systems and categories and messages and statuses of the logs, and most importantly, who'd put in these various entries. One of the things I'd like to point your attention to is on the left-hand column of the shift log there, you can see some icons there. They're actually like little settings or gear icons. They are actually automatic log entries that are generated by Pi event frames. So everything is configured within Pi System Explorer, and then once deployed, they are just monitored as the data changes. These are then implemented and can be edited by the person on shift. We also have a routine checklist. So as part of the shift log, we any panel operator or process technicians, as they're referred to within Stanwell, one of the first things that they do after the shift is handed over, they are required to look through all of the HMI screens to make sure that the unit that they're responsible for is set up in such a way that it is deployed safely and that it is operating to ideal conditions. As you can see here, we have a whole heap of sections where the operator reviews these settings within the HMI, and then they are recorded. So the intention here is to drive a behavior so that the person can have a look through the screens and make sure that everything is set correctly. Yes, all of these settings could be brought forward automatically from Pi, but it defeats the purpose of giving some operational awareness to the person on the other end of the automation. All of these fields that you see before you are actually Pi AF attributes. With any digital shift log, you need to make sure that there's a summary that's produced at the end of the shift. So when it's handed over to the oncoming shift, that you have an accurate record of what took place during the shift, and also a state of the plant when it's handed over. So just a little snip there that you can see. So this has a similar look and feel to what Mark shared a little earlier. It's a PDF document that is produced, and then all of the shift handover documents are accessible just by the left-hand column that you can see there in front of us. So reports from previous shifts can be easily viewed. We can see on there the shift that was on, the unit they were responsible for, who the person was, and the current status of the shift, what the megawatt profile looked like over the shift, all of the main and significant drives of each particular unit, what status they're in, so whether they're running or not, or they actually turn a magenta color if they are unavailable as well, if they're under maintenance. So, and all of that is brought in automatically from Pi data. As we've also heard from other presenters today, we have links into Power BI reports. So this particular one here is linked to our plant outage planner. So we have a typical Gantt view where we can see what units have any sort of outages or output reductions throughout the day. So it's in a common place. I've got a little note there at the bottom there. It says view is asset contextual with PiAF. So even though that we're looking at the hierarchy on the left-hand side, we're at the top level of Stanwell, so we can see the entire Stanwell Corporation portfolio. If I was to click on a different unit within the portfolio, so say in this case, if I clicked on Unit 1 underneath Tarong Power Station, I would just see the view for Unit 1. So you can visualize how handy and easily accessible it is to find the right information for the person that is viewing the information that is relevant to the piece of equipment that they're responsible for. Same example here. So this is an overview of one of our fuel systems that's introducing pulverized fuel into the furnace. So you can see on the left-hand side here, we're looking at Unit 1, A mill. So if I was to click on B mill within the hierarchy, all of that data would change relevant to B mill. Something else that we have there, I think I've got it on the next slide. Yes, you can see that there it says documents and drawings. So we've actually got referenced relevant drawings within our electronic document and resource management system, where we can easily pull up drawings, process control sheets, and even on the right there, you can see that we have operating instructions. So as Mark was sharing with us earlier, trying to find these sorts of things can be really laborious, and especially if you haven't used a procedure in a long time, trying to remember where it is. All of this is contextual underneath the particular asset that you're looking at within the tree. One other thing that we've started to do of late is linking all the plant area strategies along with the assets as well. We've also got integration into our ERP system. So we use ABB Ellipse within Stanwell Corporation. So the top section there, you can see a filtered view of our shift log. And then underneath that, that is a direct integration with Ellipse that is showing us open work requests. So we can see the dates when they were raised, their current status, any details that are particular with that particular work requests, and their priorities. One of the things that you can't see, but there's another column there that has a hyperlink that opens up Ellipse and takes you directly to that particular work request. So one of the things that is always a bit of a hassle is you can see in one system, especially in a shift log, that has a reference to a work request or a work order. And then you need to open up that system, do a search for that particular work order and find it. What this does in Asset Intellect, this allows you just to click on a link and it takes you directly to that particular part within the ERP system. We also utilize the attribute editor function within Asset Intellect. So what this example that we have here is at Stanwell Power Station, just inland of Rockhampton. Fuel, coal specifically, is delivered from a mine out west, further west. And when it's brought in via trains, we used to have a system that was, there's no way of putting it better. It was just fully manualized, a lot of writing down on pieces of paper, things would get lost. Things would then loaded into databases and incorrect things would get loaded in. So what we've done here is we've added a combination of the attribute editor where we can enter data directly into PyAsset framework. And then in the lower section there, you can see that we have a PyVision display. And what that allows us to do is that we can use PyVision to determine when the coal unloading started and when it finished, and that will give us timestamps. And then you can see up the top, there's a little new button. We can click on that and that will open up a dialog where the operator can then enter the consignment note numbers, the starting and ending time of the trains, any other information that's relevant to that. Once that's submitted, PyAsset Framework then basically does a quick bit of arithmetic to say that, well, this is the totalizer at the start of the delivery, this was the total at the beginning of the delivery, take away from the start from the finish, and the difference gives you how much coal was unloaded. That value is then pushed off to a SQL database, and then that is used for various other uses. One of the big advantages that we had is that we recently transitioned over to a trade certified weigher on our coal delivery belt. And we've now shifted from nominal weights to actual delivered weights, and we've had significant savings since that was implemented. This also, now using PyNotification, sends off summaries of each unloaded train, not only to internal stakeholders at Stanwell, but also to external stakeholders such as the rail delivery company and the mine themselves. So, in summary, in addition to a fully featured digital shift log and handover system, Asset Intellect has addressed the paradigm of where is my data that has challenged industrial operations for years. Not only has it been a breath of fresh air, but more encouraging is our users are coming up with ideas on how it can be utilised in other parts of the business we didn't initially think of. Being able to contextually filter the view according to the asset hierarchy, thanks to Pi Asset Framework, makes cutting out the noise so simple, giving the operator, engineer or manager the ability to make data-driven decisions quickly. We have more projects in the pipeline for Asset Intellect in 2023. We hope to share at a later date. We've been working quite closely with Dimension Software and GTSGroup to make those become a reality a lot sooner than we could ever have hoped to do that internally. So that is Stanwell Corporation's presentation on Asset Intellect. John, do we have any questions from the panel, from the audience?
Thank you, Karl. No, we have no questions that have come in from the audience, actually. Maybe we have. Question from John. What is the main reason you need Power BI? I assume you're on Windows, so not Googling to link the documents to Asset Intellect.
So we're using Power BI as was probably indicated with the other presenters. It's the presentation layer of Power BI is quite powerful. So we can pull data in from all sorts of places. We push a lot of Pi data out to a SQL database, which Power BI then uses to consume and produce all sorts of visualizations and dissecting of the data to produce it in such a way that is quite helpful. But being able to then link it within Asset Intellect, one of the things that Mark Faith mentioned earlier, I had quite a big smile when he said this, is that, you know, one of the biggest problems with Power BI is trying to find my Power BI report, but putting it in Asset Intellect just makes it so easy to find. Plus some of the presentation capabilities of native tools like Pi Vision is quite limited. So that's why we use Power BIs for those instances.
Excellent, thank you. And there is a second question from John. How hard was the Ellipse integration?
Quite simple, actually, because Ellipse uses is primarily an Oracle database. Any DBA who has some pretty good query building skills is just basically using that, and Asset Intellect allows you to parse those queries quite straightforward in a general editor.
Excellent, thank you. Question from Ben. What role does data governance play when handling manually entered data or confirming shift log events?
Yes, that's data governance has always been is something that's a little can be challenging. So we've done some basically some principles and guidelines to follow. Shift logging events, yes, that has always been something that's been quite challenging to handle. But one of the things that we've done is, because we're able to put in basically to denote systems and areas of plant, this has made things a lot easier to find. Yes, there is always the times where people will just sort of like choose the most the highest level, like common or miscellaneous or something like that. Fortunately, that doesn't happen very much at all. I suppose it's an education piece that needs to happen over time and maturity, and probably more the case is basically encouragement from peers to get these things reported on a more consistent basis, because it does affect everybody at the end of the day.
Of course. Excellent. Thank you, Karl. Really appreciate those insights. We'll now take the opportunity to hear from our panel. So our panel will consist of our existing speakers, Mark, Patrice and Karl, as well as David Barker from Dimension Software and myself. We do have a couple of questions that we will answer here. A couple of them have just come in that we'll put to the panel. So a question from Nora. The linking to your EDMS, is that adding the drawings manually, or are you using templates? So perhaps perhaps that one that, given that both Mark and Karl have mentioned documents, is there any insights you'd like to share with us on that one?
I suppose how I could add to that, well, not add to that, but basically respond to that is, yes, look, it is a manual process, but using the templates within AF, at least that then allows any sort of common equipment for that to be available at all areas of the hierarchy. But one of the things that have been able to do is some of our subject matter experts and people who are on shift, they provide all of those relevant links and they provide instructions where they would like it. It's a fairly painless step to put them in. We actually even give them access to our test system of PyAsset framework, and they will create the attributes and put them in themselves.
Excellent.
Shares the love around.
Yeah.
Indeed.
For us, we have it's sad to say, we have a very immature document management system. And with that, I don't call SharePoint a document management system. So therefore, what we've had to do is we've had to circumnavigate it a little bit. So we've had to create our own area document management system where we save all our documents to. And if need be, we can link to them. And Asset, as you said, Karl, Intellect makes it easy to do that, to get from different sources. We're hoping to fix our document management system in the future, and then it'll make it easier for us.
Yeah, I can expand on that as well. Just Asset Intellect now supports API calls, so we can, for example, do an API call into the document management system and pass in a functional location or a equipment ID and get the document links back.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mark and Karl. So another question that's come in is Asset Intellect compatible with any tool for visualization? So instead of using Power BI, can you use any other reporting tools?
I can have a go at that one as well. So it depends if it's web-based, so Tableau or SSRS, something like that would definitely work. Others would be, if it's web-based, it might be iframes or R, something like that. So yeah, a lot of different capabilities as long as it's generally web-based or API-based.
Okay, thank you. So a question that's been directed to Mark with regards to merging data from different databases, with SQL Server being one of those. Can you connect to any type of database, or is it restricted only to relational databases? And perhaps maybe that's also a question for David from Dimension to chime in on as well. So I guess the question is, the database integration, is it restricted to relational databases? Could you use maybe databases? I'm assuming maybe something like NoSQL or those types of databases.
I'll go first. At the moment, my team hasn't found anything that we haven't been able to connect to. And in some cases, what we have done, instead of going to a remote database, what we have done is we've written a script, or we've got a system to bring it in to our what we call our enterprise data lake, which is different type of data stored different ways. At the moment, we haven't come across a problem at the moment. Dave, I'll hand over to you because you'll be able to answer that better than me.
Cheers, Mark. Yeah, so there's various ODBC drivers out there. So we've had projects where we've connected to SharePoint to get data from a SharePoint list into Asset Intellect. Yeah, so there's lots of drivers, whether it be ODBC or an API call or a straight out SQL OLADB.
Okay, so I guess to sum that, it's so long as there's a technology available, ODBC, OLADB, API calls, we can talk to it in Asset Intellect.
Yep, definitely.
Fantastic, thank you. Another question from John. We're on Google platform with regards to unstructured data from documents and spreadsheets. Is this a challenge with regards to document integration and data management? Maybe one for you there, please, David.
Sorry, can you just repeat that again, John? I was just reading the others.
That's okay. So we're on a Google platform with
Right.
regards to unstructured data from documents and spreadsheets, which I'm going to take as probably things like, you know, the Google Documents, those online Google Office applications.
Yep.
Is this a challenge with regards to document integration and the data management in Asset Intellect? So I guess the question is, can the way that we've seen the integration with other EDMS, can we do the same with something like the Google Suite?
Yeah, we've done some POCs with that as well, so we definitely can bring in a Google Doc. Yeah, we've done a Lucid chart as well in the past. So yeah, have to do a little bit more investigation, a bit more trial, but definitely, I'm sure we better do it.
Okay, thank you. Another question that's come in from Christopher, and I'll invite our speakers to maybe answer to this one. If you had to repeat your respective projects, what would you do differently, if anything? Perhaps maybe Patrice, is there anything that you would do differently if you had to repeat your projects?
Possibly start earlier. Yeah, I'm really pleased that we chose this system because of its the fact that it's such an agnostic system, and we continue to find more value in the system. And I think we really appreciate the fact that we're getting there. But yeah, it's a time poor thing.
Certainly, it's a common challenge, I think.
Yeah, I think that is correct. Had we have done it as part of the training when we first rolled out training for Pi, it would have been fantastic. You know, we put in Pi years ago, and then we did have this issue, and with data being all over the place and one-stop shop. Had we put it in at that stage, it would have been a lot easier to get people still making dashboards coming in. But what I would say is, I use this term quite a bit, it's not a revolution. People don't start going, hey, can I put my dashboard in? Can I put my dashboard in? Over time, it starts to become a bit of a pull relationship. So we're seeing that now where people are making dashboards on site or reports and saying, can I get this into Asset Intellect? One thing I must say is that we did get a new chief operating officer. We showed him Asset Intellect. If Asset Intellect isn't working for 5 minutes, we know about it because he will ring us, right? And what he is now doing, which is fantastic, is a part of their stand-up meeting I think they have every day with his leadership team. Asset Intellect's up. So it's becoming a day-to-day tool that these teams are using. And if something's not right, yes, it is now. We know about it. So I would have liked to have started very much earlier on. Would I do anything different? It's really a matter of sitting down right at the start and working out what your structure in the hierarchy is going to be. Because at the end of the day, if you start on that journey, you can pull things apart and go again, but it's a lot harder to do if you sit down and just spend a day or so working out how you want the structure to sit. Okay, and the one thing is, what I found is with AGL we have changed a few times, so be careful about what you use in the naming structure, because your team can change names, and that just creates a heap of work to go through and change all your displays. So try to make those generic.
Very, very much a common data management challenge, I think. Thank you for that, Mark.
I can definitely echo a lot of what you said there too, Mark. You know, one of the things that how we got Asset Intellect on board as soon as we did, I actually did up my my own little glossy version of your glossy there, Dave. something that was a little bit more specific to what we were looking for, and I just happened to show it to the CEO as we were passing by my desk, and he says, "Oh, I haven't got time, Karl." And I just said, "That's all right." I said, "Take it with you if you can read it, great." And I didn't expect anything. Anyway, he came back to me the next day and he brought it back and he just said, "Karl, can this do even half of what you've got written on this piece of paper?" And I just said, "Well," I just said, "I believe it can." And he said, "Well, if it can," he said, "this is a game changer for us." For the CEO to say that, and you know, the CEO that we had at the time, he was a no-nonsense sort of guy, and for him to recognise that with just taking this piece of paper away, and I didn't even really get time to talk to him about it, that spoke volumes. And then before we knew it, we had Asset Intellect in, and the uptake rate, Mark, as you've said, has been exponential. The sites are really embracing it. All levels of management are using it, and there's even departments now that are using it. It's just quite. It has been a game changer for Stanwell.
Excellent, thank you. I have another question from BJ, which is for David at Dimension. Can you talk about Asset Intellect's integration with SAP and SAP Analytics Cloud? Will it work well with the asset hierarchy?
Yeah, so generally the asset hierarchy is, which we obviously is asset framework. A lot of sites will use the SAP functional location structure as their AF hierarchy. So in AF, typically there will be an attribute for the functional location, the flock code. We will then pass that across to a query into SAP. Normally that's an API call, and generally there's some third-party layers that we use to connect our API call to SAP. So yeah, very straightforward. We've got a demo of that as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Another question from Lam. How can we download a trial version of software for testing? Is that something that they could contact one of your sales folks to talk about and arrange, David?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we have a cloud-based instance as well, so we can offer a login for that, and we've got existing content that we can show and explain how that works, and then they can take that away and use it and show their peers.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, perhaps have one of the guys there reach out to Lam and have that conversation.
Right.
Thank you. That appears to be all of the questions that we have from the audience. So I think this is probably a good time for us to look at concluding and summarising. I guess I'd like to wrap up myself by saying that what we've seen from various customers that we as GTS have interacted with is that the ability to bring disparate information, whether it's pie-based, whether it's related to assets such as your work procedures, the work order information out of an enterprise asset management system, we really have seen coming to a reality, this concept of having a single pane of glass to be able to see all of this related information, reports related to assets or process areas, process data, downtime, material sheets, process and procedural documentation. It really is bringing all of that information from many systems into a single view. And for everybody that we've talked to, this has really been a game changer. I would certainly echo the words of the Stanwell CEO. It is a game changer for those that go down this path. And we're excited to be able to be working with Dimension Software and many of our customers in going down this particular journey. At GTS Group, we are very much into the PI system, and seeing tools like Asset Intellect, Alarm Sentinel, and Sigmafine being able to really enhance and extend the capability of the PI system technology. At the end of the day, it's the customers, those who are using these tools and technologies, that are the big winners, because it's just making that information so much more available. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope that you've benefited from listening to our speakers. We hope that you've been able to get a bit of a better understanding and a feel for what's available as you go down your own digital transformation journeys. We will be holding another one of these webinars in the second half of the year. We will be looking at other speakers, other industries, other use cases for these technologies. So we invite you to stay tuned, and we will be making information about that available as the time draws closer. As mentioned earlier, this webinar has been recorded, and the recording will be available soon on both the GTSGroup and Dimension Software websites. For those of you that are here and have registered, you should receive an email within the next few days with the links to the webinar recording. Thank you again for participating. Thank you to our speakers and panel members. We trust that you have enjoyed and gained from the content. We thank you, and good day.